What's up guys, Jeff from WolfPack Tackle. It's getting to be sword fishing season here in the Northeast. So we're gonna go over a quick video on how we rig a sword bait for deep dropping. I first saw this video put out by the Booby Trap. It's on YouTube. It's a great way to rig a bait. It keeps the bait from being blown up. It'll withstand multiple whacks from a sword bill. There's 4 basic steps to stitching this squid. First, we're going to stitch the head of the squid to the mantle. Then we're going to be stitching the eye of the hook to the mantle. Then we're going to be stitching the head of the squid to the hook, so that way if this gets blown apart, the head of the squid cannot bend down around the shank of the hook. And lastly, we'll be stitching all the way up the length of the mantle, so that way when the sword's slashing at it, he doesn't break it apart. So let's get into it. First, we're going to start with, we're using 220 extra hard Momoi, a 6-foot length of leader. We have a 10-0 Koga hook. And the reason we do a 6-foot length is when you get a sword up to the boat and you have your swivel at the rod tip, you don't have to leader these swords. They're going to be in gaff range, dart range. Anything longer than that, you know, you're going to have to leader the fish, and you don't want to get into that. So to start, you're going to need a rigging needle. You pick these up at your local hardware store. And also, this is a length of copper pipe, and this helps me feed my mono up through the mantle of the squid. And then we're using 70-pound wax floss. You don't need to use red, I just prefer red, but any 70-pound wax floss. You want 70 pounds, that way when the sword's whacking it, he doesn't cut through the floss. So to start, we're going to take our copper pipe and we're just going to run it right up the squid and right out the mantle. And we're just going to take our mono and we're going to go right into our copper pipe. Now when we put the hook in, we're going to come in the back of the head and we want to come right out of his beak. You can see his beak right here, and that's right here in the center is where we want the hook to come out. It's important that the hook comes out the center to keep the bait from spinning. His beak comes out with it, and we pull everything nice and tight, get everything in the position. And that's how, when we're done, that's how it's going to look. Alright, so we're going to start with our first stitch, and we're going to be stitching the mantle of the squid to the head of the squid, forming a box, so that way the head and the mantle stay intact. So to start, we're going to go through and out, coming down along the head, out the side of the hook, or out the side of the eye, and out. And we're coming back up, out the same hole we went out before, out. Now we're going to go over and out. And all we're doing is making a box. You'll see as we complete this, it'll make more sense to you. So now we have both tag ends. You can see here we got our box. The head is attached to the mantle. Same thing on this side. So now what we're going to do is tie an overhand knot with both tag ends. I'm going to pull this down, cinch it tight, trim the excess. That's our first stitch. So our second stitch is stitching the hook into place so that the hook is rigid and not flopping around. You want the hook to stay straight up and down in the bait. So we got our needle, we go through the eye of the hook, you pull on the hook, and make sure that your needle is through the eye of the hook. And then we're going to come on one side of the shank of the hook, straight out the other side. And now we're going to come back on the other side of the shank of the hook, out the other side. And to finish it, we're going to go back through the eye of the hook again. So you go through the eye of the hook, pull on the hook, then feel that your needle is through the hook. And now we're going to finish this the same way with a double overhand knot. Pull this down tight. And now the eye of our hook is rigid in here. It can't flop, it can't lay on its side. Trim that. And now our third stitch is to keep the head of the squid from being able to ride down the bend of the hook. So all we're doing is we're coming right along the side of the eye, in one side, out the other. And now we're going to come across, go in next to the eye, and now we're bringing our needle right out the hook. If you can see that there, our needle is coming right out the hook. And then we take our other end of our floss. We're going to go across and out. And now same thing, we're going to come across and out right at the hook. So now you can see both of our tag ends are coming out right at the beak, one on either side of the hook. So now we're going to do a series of overhand knots, pulling these tight. And you want these knots to slide down the shank of the hook, and that's going to stop the head from being able to slide. So we're going to do a series of overhand knots, pulling them tighter as we go. So as you see, as I pull this, it slides all the way down the shank of the hook. And now we're going to come in front of the hook, tie an overhand knot, and pull this one down tight. Now the back side of the hook, overhand knot. Now I do about 5 of these. And then to finish it up, I just do a double overhand. Pull that nice and tight. And we trim our tag end. And now our last stitch is going to stitch up the whole length of the mantle of the squid. And what we're doing is we're going to form an X pattern. So when we're done, you're going to see an X coming up the whole length of the squid. So we're going to start inside of our box, pull about half of your floss through. Same thing, go inside your box, in and out. Now we're going to start an X. So we're going to go up and over and out. Up, over, and out. Up, over, and out. And just continue that right up the squid. Now when you get to the mantle, or the flaps, you don't want to stitch these closed. You want these to stay free. So when I stick my needle in, I'm making sure I'm not going in the flap. We're keeping his wings being able to go freely. Now as we get to the end here, I'm going to keep these pretty tight here. You can wrap this all with floss if you wanted to. Okay, now that's done. Now we're going to take our other side of our floss and we're going to close our X pattern. So now we're going to go over and through. Over and through. over and through. So you can see here the X pattern starting. Okay, so now you can see our X's here on both sides. Now this squid is going to swim, the hook's secure. Now to finish this off, we're going to add a crimp to the top. So we're just going to trim our tag ends here. We're going to take both tag ends. We're going to run them inside of a crimp. And then we're going to take the end of our leader. Inside the crimp. I'm going to slide this crimp all the way down to his mantle. And now I'm going to grab the hook with one hand and grab the floss with the other. And I want to pull this. We want all these floss to come all nice and tight. And then we're going to slide our crimp down. And we take our crimpers. Go ahead and crimp this. And all this crimp's doing is keeping the floss tight. And then we're going to take our floss, same thing, do a series of overhand knots. Going on, each knot is rotating from one side of the leader to the other. And then we finish that with a double overhand. Pull that tight. Trim the tag end. Now this squid is done. That is a perfect squid for daytime sword fishing.